Hello, this is Frank Scully introducing Jacque Fresco on the City of Tomorrow. Jacque, would you explain a little in detail those drawings and sketches that you showed me today?
Government center, a large radial system of buildings, and the sections that emanate similar to that of a gear may be a Department of Agriculture, and the section devoted to agriculture, research in agriculture, emanates away from the central hub. Around that hub would be various departments such as education, medicine, engineering, and all other essential fields for living. On the outer rim of the cyclic city plan will be living sections. In other words, at the very end of the engineering section or the very end of the medical section, there would be the living area, which would be parks and playgrounds, libraries, lakes surrounding the homes. In other words, you would live in beautiful surroundings and adjacent to the areas you worked. Outside of the living areas would be large cyclic farms surrounding the entire city. There's another illustration there showing one of the farm machines which travel around the outside of the cities, and they lay large paper sheets, I might say about 30 feet across by a mile long, which are laid by these machines. And the sheets of paper contain seeds, which are spaced at very close intervals. After the seeds are laid down with this paper, the machine then covers the seeds and the paper, and you can predict your crop, the quantity of the crop, and you don't have any problems such as weeds growing between these plants. Then the same machine will come back and harvest this crop and quick freeze it and ship it into town by pneumatic tubes. There are other illustrations that depict the great American desert. After a continental hydrology is installed, meaning a system of canals throughout the country to irrigate the land, would also be used as a shipping means, also to raise the water table and change the climate throughout the drier portions of the Americas. Other than that, adjacent to the canals will be the research centers in agrobiology and hydroponics, soilless agriculture. There will be the continental highways running alongside of the canals, which will have built-in radar systems of safety. In other words, should anything occur on the highway, automatic signals will be sent out to the nearest emergency station, which in turn will send ambulances or whatever service may be necessary to that region of a problem or trouble. There will be radar installed all along the highway, which would act as a signal system. In other words, when you're coming to an area of destruction or flood washout, it would automatically cut in on your power plant in the car and slow it up or stop it, depending on the problem ahead. Frank, do you remember some of the other illustrations which you'd like me to describe?
Yeah, one I'd like you to tell what about these ships I saw there. You had shipping that go through these canals all the way across the country, and there was some port shipping sketches that I was very much interested in. Explain those.
Yes, well, as for shipping, the way ships are designed presently, you'd think we were going to be in the shipping business for about a month and a half. Some of the larger ships that I have illustrated show entire sections of the ship that can be removed by an overhead crane and brought into the warehouse. While these three main sections can be removed from the ship within 20 minutes, other sections would be loaded onto the ship. In other words, if you had a merchant marine fleet of about 400 ships, the time saved would give you the equivalent of having 800 or 900 ships, meaning it would put more ships into circulation, carrying more materials with less man-hours devoted to loading and unloading of these ships. After the main freight section of the ship is taken off, it is lowered away onto a freight car rather than loading a freight car. This is all done automatically. The freight car then carries off the main freight section of the ship to an industrial plant, and which the entire section is then hauled up into the ship, into the plant, and another storage section is lowered back down onto the ship. In other words, bringing the efficiency level up to the maximum.
I also noted in the maritime field you had some sketches there of beaches that looked as if they wove in and out the way they do in restaurants when they want to save space instead of just one long bar. Just how is that to work? The sketches are quite clear, but I think they need some added explanations from you.
Well, the beaches are planned with long jetting sections that extend out for about 900 feet. Similar to a long, may look like the finger when laid out on a table. The finger will act as wave breaks, and there will be more people on the beach and less area. That is, there would be less crowding. It would look like the letter U from the air, or a comb, I might say, with a wide interval between the teeth. Bathing would occur between the pinnacles, and the lifeguards would be placed in the center region of this beach. There will be radar or supersonics throughout the water, which will give an indication of all the swimmers. If anything goes wrong, if anyone has any trouble, they would immediately show up on the center table, and a buoy would be shot out automatically to the region of distress, not depending on the human element. In other words, the lifeguard doesn't have to attend to those duties. We can pick up a struggle in the water by the interferences in the sound band which we have radiating through the water.
When you say that the lifeguard is in the center of the beach, you mean he's out in the water, equidistant from all the points of the persons in that U area?
That is exactly true. The lifeguard is really a robot lifeguard which operates on coaxial cable power. If the power fails, it's operated by battery, so we have it installed as an extra protective device for the safety of people at a beach.
Would this cut out all undertow and such hazards which the beaches, for instance, of California are full of?
Yes, with the design and building of these projections sticking out into the sea, we cut out much of the undertow, and by building a system of fins under the water, extending out about a half a mile offshore, we can break undercurrents and change the currents of the familiar waters.
Did I understand that in this wheel, this hub-shaped city of tomorrow, that back of each area in direct line, the people not only had their parks but lived, and their sustenance was behind them, and their profession in front of them, all as snug as that?
Yes. The design of this system, of this city, is based on the cell, or the system with a system related to natural law and the operation of natural conditions in plant life and also in biology. By applying the same system of a functional design, much more service could be rendered at a much lower energy consumption.
May I ask also, would it be easier to set up such a city in a completely unused area of the United States, for instance, rather than attempt to break down a city already set up with naturally all the obstacles of vested interests and all that sort of thing? Would it be easier, for instance, to set up a new capital of the United States in, let us say, an area in Nebraska or Denver, which is pretty nearly the center of the United States?
That is true, Frank. A new area will be set up for the capital of the United States. When sanity sets in, a redesign of the entire continent and its functional sequences will be installed. And the cities that remain present, the present cities that exist, are so chaotic in their design, they cannot possibly handle new traffic problems that are about to come in the next few years. They'd have to continuously tear down buildings, build new aerial parking lots, underground parking ways, and that still would not deal with the oncoming problems. The cities are extremely poorly planned.
May I ask you, Jacque, how you handle traffic? I think in one of these sketches you indicated that no person and an automobile would ever come in contact. I mean, no pedestrian and an automobile, because the automobiles would move under or over pedestrians at all times. Is that right?
That is true. The traffic regions would be completely apart from pedestrian regions. If you wish to park at a particular shopping center, you would drive under the main highway and cut around into a parking lot or a parking area under the buildings. In other words, pedestrian zones would be completely free of traffic zones. There would be no problem there, Frank.
In one of the designs here, you show the schoolrooms, for instance. It just looks like the base of a tree and the branches emanating above it. Can you explain just how those classrooms are set up? I saw one that had not a flat blackboard of a map of the world, but the actual globe of the world, and the classroom was rather uniquely designed too.
This school setup would consist of a cylinder in the center region of the school, extending about 600 or 700 feet high. In the center of this cylinder will be air conditioning, pneumatic tubes, elevator shafts, leading the students up into classrooms that are cyclic or round. Placed about this tube, surrounding this tube, will be a balcony which is sloped toward the center of this tube, in which three-dimension movies or pictures will occur on geography or history, whatever the subject is to be taught in the particular school.
And I know, too, that in the hub of this universe, which the various spokes emanate from, is it that each department, for instance, not only would be able to send its vital information all down its wheel, its spoke of its wheel, but also be able to inform those all around the hub? Is that the idea?
Yes, that is the idea. In the center of this hub is a round dome-shaped building in which a representative from each of the main branches of agriculture, science, engineering, and national health would meet, exchanging ideas. In other words, if something new is found out in electronics, it would be applied to agriculture and medicine. There'd be no such thing as independent research, but instead the free exchange of ideas and development to enrich the standard of living of all people throughout the world in this continental United States.
Of course, the inevitable question arises. First, how are you going to get the money for all this? Second, who's going to pay for all this? And all those sort of questions. Do you have any answers to these questions? I have, but I wondered if you had.
Well, Frank, a strange thing always occurs. If you ever propose a slum clearance project, people will say, where is the money coming from? But the moment you tell people you're going to spend $50 billion on a hydrogen bomb, they never ask that question. It is not the money, it is the natural resources. America today possesses 85% of the world's technicians, and we have almost 70% of the world's developed natural resources. We have the energy, the material, and the know-how for building this brave new world. The only question I have to ask is, what are we waiting for?
I think it's a question that I would personally like to answer by saying, I don't know what we're waiting for either, because in this race between catastrophe and civilization, it does seem to me that any such plan as this would be the salvation of civilization. And I agree with you that the sort of people who in 1938 would scream that any even mild homeopathic thing like WPA and $2 million of such a project would bankrupt the country, and we're perfectly willing to be spending $2 billion for a bomb, and so far, 5 years later, haven't felt the economic loss whatever. I'm sure that once it's brought to their attention that you can build a civilization even cheaper than you can destroy it, their argument as to where all the money is coming from or who's going to pay this will disappear in the thin air. I want to thank you, Jacque Fresco, for this terrific and enlightening project of the city of the future, and I hope that between us we can bring it a good deal nearer to a realization than this flash recording, our first effort in the field. I thank you.
Well, it's not exactly the city of the future. It can be built today with today's know-how. The only thing that's holding it up is...
What's the only thing that's holding it up? Me? Well, I'm only one of 150 million, and I am certainly going to be the first to sign up for this city. You might say that I'm not the first to sign up for the destruction of cities, but I certainly am the first to sign up for their building in this beautiful new concept of Jacque Fresco.
Are you, which?
I'm Hanson.
You're Hanson?
This is Mr. Andre.
Oliver?
Andre.
Good morning.
We're with the Air Force Office of Special Investigation. I'm the man you were talking to yesterday.
God damn, that's impressive, isn't it? Office of Special Investigation. Mr. Scared his butt.
Well, we don't want to scare him. That's the least of our desires. But I'll tell you what we're here for. We talked to Mr. Murphy out there before the morning something.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that you had some information and gadgets which you said related to flying saucers and flying discs. Could you tell us something about that?
Well, as far as gadgets, I don't have a thing to work about it. Things that even pertain to them. I will thank you, I'm not smoking. As far as the flying saucers, what, are you on this flying saucer story, are you? Is that...
Well, no, you see, as you probably know, the Air Force investigates all reports of that type.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you probably read the publicity that's been put out in connection with it. And whenever we hear something like this, well, we track it to its source and see how authentic it is, if at all.
Well, tell me, how long have you been on this particular investigation?
Well, we haven't given this thing much thought until just recently, and we found that Mr. Murphy got it through a man by the name of Davis from you, and we'd like to see where you got it, or if it originated with you.
Well, no, it did not originate with me. However, the source that I got it at, I can't tell you, though I would like to. The spot where I got it is a very confidential spot. I believe that I'm responsible, however, for Murphy hearing about it. Through this deal of, what did you say his name was? Davies? It's possible that he could have told him, I don't know.
Well, we know that you told Mr. Murphy in the presence of other people. You didn't speak directly to him, but you related your information in the presence of about 5 or 6 people connected with the Ford Motor Company.
Mm-hmm.
And, but you had actually one of them that overheard it.
Mm-hmm. Murphy and others,
I think there was one man from out here along with you on that particular trip, isn't that right? Well, we don't know who it was, but I think the way Mr. Murphy told us that a friend of yours or another man from KMYR was out there with you at the time.
I don't remember. Yes, that's right. There was. A fellow named Holden Buller. Yeah. He was a new man starting here that I took out. How far have you gone with your investigation of this thing, other than just contacting these few people?
Well, we have offices all over the country, and
what do you think of the flying saucer story? Well, how far have you gotten into it?
I'll tell you, we're over here to see what you know about it.
I see. In other words, you're not divulging any information.
No, we're not.
Well, I'll tell you, what was told to me, frankly and honestly, was told in the strictest of confidence. Now, I don't believe that I have violated that confidence in any way, for the simple reason I have never mentioned any names, where I have got the information I got.
You have mentioned names.
Have I?
The story that we got now, like I say, we have a third hand, we're coming to you because you're the source of it. We would.
Well, actually, to my knowledge, have never mentioned any name. Nor do I intend to anyone. Now, the reason for that is this, and I think if you were put in my position, you'd feel the same identical way that I do. This was entrusted to me as a confidence.
Now, I have information that you passed on to 4 or 5 other people?
Not the information? No, it was not entrusted to me as a confidence, no.
What was it?
It was told to me as a story. However, the names where I got it from was entrusted to me as a confidence, And I have no desire to jeopardize that confidence in any way, nor will I.
Do you believe this story that you related?
100%.
You do? You feel that your source is so reliable that there's no question whatsoever as to the authenticity of the information?
100%. think that's right, yeah.
Well, I'd like to make our position clear to you, Mr.
You can just call me George, as I'm for this Mr.
Okay, George. See, we have a job to do. In other words, we're employed by the government, and we're working for the government, digging out these facts. And there's a reason behind it all.
Yeah, Mr. Rooker, you wouldn't be here, that's for sure.
Now, if anyone has any information, regardless of how slight it might be, and we go out and gather these bits of information. Remember, everything that we get, and other agents throughout the country, goes to one central head. And there it is evaluated and pieced together. Now, if there's anything at all to all this flying saucer,
You know, I wish they hadn't you come in yesterday. I mean this seriously.
well, I tried to,
And here's the reason I wish you had. There was a man by the name of Keeble down here to talk to me. Have you ever heard of him? Donald Keeble.
No,
He wrote a very, very fascinating article in True Magazine.
I read that.
So he's the author. And he was down here talking to me. He said that he heard through someone who heard from somebody else, and heard from somebody else, and heard from somebody else, that I knew something about it. And I had told him just exactly what I told you. But I know absolutely nothing under the sun about what he was talking about. Right? But then he went into the long detail about his article and all the information he had gathered. And of course the Air Force denial of the thing. And then he asked me if I had ever seen this new article in Laramie. Scully's latest issue. So I went out and about that thing. I went out to get it yesterday, and I don't believe it's up there. Have you boys read it?
I know the article, and I haven't read it yet.
Well, it's an extremely good article. In other words, it asks you fellas 20 questions of the Air Force. And I believe it's just waiting for another denial. That's about what it amounts to. But the facts that he includes in this thing are actually startling. That's why one of the reasons I wished you were here, because Keeler was up here at the time, and he was trying to explain a few of them to me. And it was very, very enlightening conversation with a man. And in fact, he had just left when you boys had come up here, and then when I called back, I was out of the office, and I tried to get him again, but he went to Montana, Montana or something like that. And I was going to try to get him, and I thought we'd all have a talk about it yesterday. But then this fellow that just called me a few seconds ago just asked me the same question that you've asked me now. I can't remember his name, but he was from Kansas City Star. His name was Champ Lewis or something like that.
Yeah, the Kansas City Star carried the story as you told it. And so happened. Now I'll give you this information to give you a little background. At the time that you related your story at the Ford Motor Company and then on out to the airport and so on, you probably remember that, don't you? You had dinner and
Not out to the airport, no.
you didn't go as far as the airport. Well,
I don't know anything about this. Really thick, I haven't terrible news from out of town, isn't that right?
he got his story back to Kansas City. Kansas City.
Really thick got the story. All of the story from Lucky, didn't he?
No, he was friends with
We just talked about bits of it at lunch, just very small bits of it. In fact, he had about 18 minutes to make the plane and have lunch, so you figure out how much conversation we had.
Well, that's right.
But he said Murphy, when I left, admitted Murphy had had a long meeting with him. They were discussing this thing. And I said, oh, that's all. And then we picked up little bits of it as he went along. And that was all that transpired. And we had lunch out at Park Hill or something. Golf club like that, you know. And then the boys left, and I was not with them. I had this new man with me, and I took him out to old few accounts that we had. So.
Well, this source of yours, for your information, ever give you any parts in this particular?
No.
Okay.
No.
What about the gadget that you had over at the Ford place? What is that, a joke or? I mean, are you pulling
Gadgets?
a leg or something?
Gadgets that I had at the Ford place?
Yeah.
Well, I don't have to deny that I ever had any.
Okay, well,
talk about this, and in other words, I've got a job to do here, and I've got a lot more important things to do. Okay? And everybody wants a story, and everybody wants information, and so on. Now, I was told, okay, Monday of this week, that I know absolutely nothing. Now, believe me when I say I'm not trying to be facetious or nasty to you. I'm not that kind of a fellow.
You say you were told that you know.
That's right. I don't know a thing.
Who told you that?
The same source.
Oh,
yeah.
Your source.
That's right. I don't know if you refer to him as a source or the boys. I mean, it doesn't make any difference to me. But that is the only way I ever referred to them. Now, as far as giving names, that I've never done.
Well, have you ever, according to the story, the way we get it, that you have claimed to have seen these things? Is that that you have claimed that?
No. No, I have never seen them. I don't know what the hell it looked like if I did see one.
Well, you probably know that when a story gets handed down from person to person, it's altered and added to and subtracted from and everything else.
I've given just a few facts that I have heard myself, say. Now, as far as because of seeing one, no, I've never seen one. However, we have a boy working here who has seen them in the air, he claims.
Well, there's lots of people out there that claim that. In fact, we got a picture that a man took yesterday, which he claims was one.
There's a movie showing in New York at the Railroad Theater, I understand. That opened Monday. That's called a Flying Saucer Thing. As it goes through the story, while it shows a little dot in the sky, basically that's a flying saucer. It's put out by MGM or something, but it's, to my knowledge, it's just a lie.
All right, how about any of these questions I ask you, you're certainly free, you know, to tell me you don't care to answer it. Your source, is the source connected with the government in any way, or is it a private party?
Frankly, I'm not free to answer that question.
All right, the reason I'm getting at that is that any information pertaining to flying saucers certainly has no business being in the hands of a private individual. Do you think that's right? Do you think any one person should decide whether he should retain such information or whether it should be turned over to the proper authorities?
I believe that the government is the only one that should have any answers to this story. And I believe that the government is making a huge mistake in not giving the true facts about the goddamn thing as they know. And I'll tell you why I feel that way. I might be a little bit different than anybody else, I don't know. But you know, this wonderful country of ours, the United States, has taken this so-called atomic age without any history whatsoever. And if there is an interplanetary age, as all these magazine articles, newspaper articles, and supposedly these true fact articles, if it is right, I think they're going to take it in the same calmness they've taken the atomic age.
Probably so.
I honestly believe it. Now, I'll tell you, this thing fascinates me. This fascinates me because I want to know more about it continually. And I think everyone in the United States feels the same goddamn way about it. I don't know why they shouldn't. Now, why the hell won't the government release this information? I mean, don't you feel, you're a normal, intelligent human being. Well, how would you take this thing?
Well, George, I'll tell you now, this story that, are you aware of the story that was printed in the Kansas City paper?
No.
Well, that's so much value, you see. Now, certainly the government won't release value as
why, they'd be damn fools to.
That's right.
That's right.
So,
but they certainly should release some facts of the thing, don't you believe?
Well, at this stage, a release has been made, and all claims to sighting these saucers and so on, it's all been explained in some manner or another.
It's all been explained, but if you'll pardon me, it hasn't been explained to my satisfaction. I mean, the only article that I've ever read is from the UP and AP Wire here, or the Air Force, where no particular man, denies the entire story. They claim that it just don't exist. People are having hallucinations. Well, now, people don't have hallucinations.
Well, they're not all explained as hallucinations. It's on a percentage basis.
That's right. Some of them they claim were meteorites and so on.
And so on.
Yeah, that's what you claim. However, in the entire article of your denial, it doesn't give any particular man's name as to denying this entire thing. See? I wonder why.
All right. Let me put it this way to you. We've felt that it was important enough to talk to you to see what information you had. Something has led us to you, an allegation that you had information. All right. Now, you don't want to give us your source. Now, the government certainly...
Well, this is a question of my giving you, sir. What would you do in my position? What would you do in my position? Huh? Would you be clear that
I gave you an opinion there. I'd probably say, well, I'd give you the source.
You'd say what
I would say that I would reveal my source and let the people who are involved in this business track it all down. Yes, now let me tell you what the next step would be. If you tell us your source, someone would contact the source and get the meat of the information that your source has. If you mean it's not the source, it would go to the next one. So you track it down to its last final point, to its origin.
You mean that the Air Force knows nothing of these ships now?
Oh, the Air Force gets reports from all over the country on all matters pertaining to this. And it has tracked them all down in one form or another. All right, now the full information, I won't even say that I know it all. They don't notify me from Washington. I the story.
I didn't imagine they would.
I'm just a little guy that's digging out another story.
Well, I thought
I'm writing everything, you see.
I thought, though, that they would give you what shall we say, a thumbnail sketch of the entire thing as you know it to be now.
We're kept abreast of the situation, generally, but not in detail, that's certain.
Well, do you believe it yourself? Just between you and I mean, I don't make a damn bit of difference whether you tell me, because if I tell somebody that some of the Air Force boys are here, they tell me they believe it, why, there'd be just another story.
Well, that's it. I don't want that to happen, so I prefer not to comment on that.
I see. Well, frankly, I do believe it 100%. And as I say, I believe that every American in the United States is going to take it calmly, without any great reaction. There's no reason in the world why.
Okay, George, how about setting you straight on this now? Fred Unger and myself were talking to Mr. Murphy yesterday, and I don't want to say that Mr. Murphy was handing me a line, and I want to believe what you tell me. I want to tell you that I'm led to believe that you had some gears and a couple of little chunks of metal that in your possession at the time you were over there. Now, is that true or untrue or what?
Well, let's say that I just refuse to comment on that particular question right now.
Okay.
I do not have the gears.
You don't have them?
I do not have...
Well, did you have them there? Let's quit hating.
Well, as I said, I don't have the gears. Or pieces of metal. I'll tell you what somebody did do. Well, that's the goddamn thing you ever heard of. And this was just the other day. That a letter came to me, oh, thank God I don't smoke, from Boulder, Colorado, see? With two little discs in it, aluminum discs, that said, does this metal resemble that of yours? See, I don't even know what he's talking about. I got it in my coat pocket.
In other words, somebody else knows that you have some information or believes that you have some or...
Must believe that I have some information.
And they want to compare notes with you.
Apparently so. But goddamn, they wasn't signed. And so, this is the postmark, the postscript on it. Said Boulder, Colorado.
Well...
Or maybe somebody's trying to give me the straight picture. I'll tell you, you haven't read this article of Frank Scully, huh?
No, I think I don't.
Now, I suggest you do, because I think it has a great deal of information. And any man, see, who has that much information about this thing, he must know all the answers.
But George, you'll admit that anything that smacks of flying saucers is going to sell. I mean, that's something that you can appeal to the public with right now.
Do you know that 2 magazines have been after me to give give them information and the story, and you know what I've told both of them? 3 of them, as a matter of fact. You know what I'd have to tell 3 of them? I'm sorry, I don't have any information. Can you arrange a meeting, see? Can you arrange a meeting whereby we can get this information? I can't. Yet I know that one magazine in particular has offered thousands and thousands of dollars for this thing, and have offered me the same thing.
Sure.
And I sent the man there yesterday. Now I can use $5,000 awful goddamn well, but I had to send the son of a bitch away. See?
That's pretty rough.
Well, that's rough as hell. That's right. That's not very rough. Of course, I can't prove anything that I say. I can give them possibly facts that in later years will prove to be exacting facts, yes, but who the hell am I? I'm George Kohler, goddamn toy salesman for KMYR, see?
That's your position, you sell time.
That's right, I sell time and radio, yeah.
Have you been with the outfit very long?
About a year and a half. Yeah, about a year and a half. Almost 2 years.
Pretty good job?
No.
You know the brain?
Mac, I sure do. I think he's a very nice fellow. Very nice fellow.
Across the street from me.
Oh, is that right? Yeah, Mac is an outlaw. He left here about a year ago, I guess. He's with the Magruder Agency now. I like Mac very much. Very much. Very conscientious, a damn fine radio man. But he was in a different end of it than I am here. See, Mac was a programmer.
He is the J. Walter Thompson representative for the Ford Motor Company for the entire United States. One of the representatives. That's what I
He's the Western.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Well, Navy apparently has heard any comments that you made on this thoughts that it's good at it. Have you told them any other at all? From time to time,
Davies has, I would say, heard the entire story.
Well, the story we got was that you had actually seen these things.
Oh, Christ. Hell no.
Well, if you had seen one and then picked it up as the story went on.
Brother, if I had seen one,
we want to talk to.
if I had seen one, and seen the occupants in the room, you think I'd let that fellow walk out of here yesterday with $5,000 check to me?
You don't blame us for coming to see you.
No, I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did.
Tells us that George Kohler has seen those damn people. We want to see George Kohler.
And you want to see it too, don't you? In fact, when you get these things, you can just come down here and get me by the hand and lead me to it, and I'll be forever grateful. But the sightings of these ships, in fact, I'll tell you a little story that'll really raise your hair. About 4 months ago, so the story goes, that within 65 miles from here, one of these things is supposed to have landed, right? And 2 little girls saw the goddamn thing, as the story goes, ran in to tell their grandmother, and by the time they convinced their grandmother, the grandmother came out and looked at the goddamn thing, it was gone. See, the grandmother didn't see anything. But that was just another natural phenomenon, wasn't it?
Well, George, how big was the girl? Kids have imagination.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yes,
There's a fellow who's our program director here, who was driving in northern Colorado, a big part in southern Colorado, with his mother. And they saw him flying around in the sky. Well, he's a very, very reputable young man. I put a lot of stock in what he said. He could have must have been another one of those goddamn natural phenomena, I guess.
Well, if he saw one, he certainly landed. He was jot down any description that he may have or something like that. If he talks about
No.
well, like to hear the story.
Good work, Gene Amel. Huh? About, let's say a month ago, and you wanted some information, so help me. But I think that you understand my position now, and I just can't give them anything. In fact, when people come to me and start talking about finding, you know what I tell them? Oh, geez, don't find me. stuff anymore. I'm just a goddamn sick of it. I just don't have time for it. Now, that's right. I have people call me up like this until I talked to you as you were sitting there, just as you walked in the door from Kansas City. And he said, I understand that you know a great deal about this thing, that you are an authority. I'm sorry, that's a lot of crap, fella. I don't know anything about it. Right? Because I'm just sick of it. I'm just fed up with it right now. I don't even want to talk about it anymore.
Well, I guess it could kind of grow on you.
Yeah, it could. Of course, believe me, it's the most fascinating subject I have ever found or ever been able to talk about.
Well, George, you know, it's the next step anyhow. The world has been conquered as far as travel throughout the world. If you want to go someplace new, you got to get outside.
Well, there's still a lot of places in this world I haven't seen. I'm going to be satisfied to see.
Well, I mean, not as an individual, it hasn't been conquered, but mankind in general.
Oh, yeah. Well,
all sorts of transportation can take you any part of it now. All the way around it, probably without 30 foot on land. The next step is move out.
well, I believe I read an article here not so long ago that said that we are making plans at the present time to visit the moon in about 30 years, right here in the United States.
Yeah, I saw a newspaper article on that.
So, it's possible. I don't know. Frankly, I wouldn't want to be one of the first.
Well, these stories, the plans actually have to precede any action on it.
Frankly, I believe if I saw one of these flying discs, I'd be the biggest goddamn coward of any of us. I don't think I'd go near the son of a bitch. For sheer fright. See? I mean, I'm just like, there was a boy who was talking to me years and years ago about a fella coming in to hold him up, see? Put that gun in his face and that fella said, I just took a poke right in his mouth. I said, is that right? And about 2 weeks later, I was held up, see? And that guy held that gun in front of my face, and that son of a bitch looked like I could just crawl right down the barrel. I could see the bottom, see? So I got big and tough and strong, too. You know what I said to the man? Every goddamn thing he said to me, I said one thing. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it is. And then when that son of a bitch left, I had a cold sweat, and I shook for about 10 minutes later. I couldn't even tell the police what happened, see? So this bastard who was telling me about this poke he took at this guy, he's a liar, son of a bitch, for my money.
I think I'd be inclined to do the same thing. I could make more money someday, but...
So that's the same way I feel about this flying disc thing. I'm not too anxious to... Oh, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see the so-called occupants. I'd like to know how it's operated. I know approximately how it's operated now. But I'd like all of the things in concrete evidence right before me.
Sitting there in front of you like
That's right. But I'm not too anxious to take a Christmas song.
You know what, right? That's what we came here to see.
That's what you came. You thought I had it in my pocket, huh?
No, not one of the machines, but we understood you had some parts from it.
No, I don't have any parts from it.
Well, you don't mind us coming in here to see you, and...
Not at all, and you're more than welcome at any time.
Okay, George, well,